everybody, it's John and Jackie of OpenLove101.com. And today with the World Love Summit, we're talking to Black Coco of Coco's Pleasure Palace. Hey, how are you doing today?
Hi, John. Hi, Jackie.
Hey, how are you?
Great. Excellent.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you would tell our viewers a little bit about Coco's Pleasure Palace, like how to find it, and a little bit about what it is.
Okay, so my name is Black Coco, and I am the owner of Coco's Pleasure Palace. You can find our adult novelty section on blackcoco.com. So we have a lot of different selections of toys and stuff for you like that. And as far as just getting in contact with me, you could give me a call at 504-205-3434 and leave a voicemail. Just in case you guys would like to talk to me about anything as far as mentorship, speaking, engagements, or anything like that.
That sounds great. And so are you in the swinger lifestyle?
I am in the lifestyle. I am considered a unicorn.
And what is a unicorn exactly?
Okay, so a unicorn is normally the person that is the third party in a threesome, basically. But we like to branch off a little bit more and consider ourselves just basically sexually active females, safe sexually active females.
That's good to know. And how long have you considered yourself in the lifestyle?
We're going to give it about 4 or 5 years. We're not going to tell my age too much, but
Okay.
5 years. Officially, we'll say that.
Officially. So is there a time when you were maybe doing things and you didn't really consider yourself a unicorn or a swinger, but maybe you were a little more than that sexually?
Absolutely. When I was in high school, I had a boyfriend who was into like threesomes and exploring different things such as like pegging and stuff like that. But when we were children, we didn't really understand wholeheartedly the meanings and definitions of certain things. So I didn't really learn about the lifestyle and the definitions and everything that goes into it until around college. So
Okay.
I started really early. I apologize to some people.
In college. So like what would be something like, when did you first learn about the term and how did that happen?
I first learned about the term actually at Red Lobster. Me and my boyfriend actually at the time wanted to explore into it. And well, he more so wanted to explore than I did, to be honest, because I didn't know exactly what I was getting into, but I was down for whatever, as they say. You know, I was trisexual at the time.
You would try anything.
Yes, exactly. And so over Cheddar Bay biscuits, I was serving a table Cheddar Bay biscuits. He basically was like, hey, there's this party, let's go. So that's basically how that started. It was kind of a weird interaction.
And you were like, what kind of party?
No, because I knew him and he was nasty. So I figured, I mean, come on now, he was dating me. So it was like birds of a feather flock together. So I pretty much figured out what it was.
Okay.
But I thought it was more so going to be on the orgy side of things than lifestyle.
And I mean, in your mind, I mean, do you separate the two, like an orgy or lifestyle or?
Absolutely. We just did Naughty in New Orleans together, and that was a lifestyle event. And there were different playrooms in that lifestyle event. And some were more orgy-esque type, and some were more one-on-one. And then we, of course, had the kink area. So no, I don't consider being in the lifestyle just orgies. I think that's a myth that I've talked about on the Pleasure Hour, that when we did our segment on myths in the lifestyle, right after I actually did Naughty in New Orleans with you guys, we talked about how people have these different things in their minds that they think the lifestyle consists of. And that's one of the things. Like, everybody's just not out to have sex with you.
That's true. That's true. Were there other myths that you talked about?
Yes, we talked about the unicorn myth, which was that we were down to have sex with any and every person, and that's definitely not true. We have discernment. We choose who we choose to sleep with and who we don't choose to sleep with. We talked about religion, parenting. For religion, there were a lot of people who said, well, because you're in the lifestyle, you don't believe in God. And I said, that's absolutely not true. And I think I talked to you guys at one of our seminars. I think I said Abraham had many wives.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
having a lot of sex. So, and we believe, I believe in God. I'm actually the granddaughter of pastors. So I
So
definitely believe in Jesus.
was it hard then, when you're talking about your history a little bit here,
Mhm.
you seem to have been able to kind of embrace your sexuality.
Absolutely.
You know, how did you do that being a woman? Like,
Was
was
extremely hard because I came out of a 5-year domestic violence relationship. And even before that, sexuality was not something that we talked about, especially in like my culture in general, being like the Black Christian background. Sex was meant for the man and to please the man, and it was just something that you did, but you didn't really enjoy or learn too much about. Like they taught you about cooking and cleaning and take care of your man, but not necessarily how to sexually please him or to sexually please yourself. So when I had all of these feelings, I didn't really, know what to do with them. I suppressed them. When I would have certain people, like my ex who abused me and my son for 5 years, he would slut shame me and say something was wrong with me. Like I had an insatiable desire to have sex a whole lot. And it would be crazy the certain things I would want to try. Like he wasn't into like things such as like anal sex and stuff like that. He was like, well, why you want to do that? It was just like the three basic positions that I think a lot of people do. And I got bored of that quickly. So, yeah, slut shaming became a part of my life.
so what was the process that you went through? So here you are in this community, you're being raised in this kind of religious atmosphere, which I can completely relate to. What I find interesting though is your seeking out of how to please yourself. And again, I guess I just kind of keep going back to how were you able to work through that so that you were okay with the fact that you wanted to do these things? You said you were slut shamed and some of that. So how did you get through those?
Well, for me, how I got through it was I went to a sex therapist, but I went to a sex therapist more so not only because of my domestic violence situation, but I was gang raped when I was 12. So I didn't really want to be touched in general. After you've, had so many men touch you forcefully and grab on you and stuff like that, it makes it hard for you to really want to have that personal touch or interaction with men. My one of my god sisters who actually went through the experience with me, she became extremely sexual, but she became what people would consider like a actual hoe or slut. She just went off the deep end, we'll say. Any and everything she decided that she wanted to play around or toy with. Versus me, I was like, I don't want to be touched. I don't want that actual connection. So I figured out something was seriously wrong with me because I loved relationships and love, but I did not want to be touched whatsoever. And I was like, well, I still have desires and need to be pleased. So I started out, I think I snuck my first dildo into my grandparents' house around 16, maybe 17. And before then, yeah, I was an interesting child. It got
So
quickly.
what was probably one of the most important aspects of going through therapy for you? What was it that helped you kind of bridge that gap between not wanting to be touched, but yet feeling this sexuality? How did you join those two?
The most important breakthrough in counseling for me was when she told me I was okay. I was human. and that there was nothing wrong with me. I think that was the moment that I broke down and I cried, because for years I thought something has to be wrong with me because of this rape experience. I must be broken. I would have men that I would date that would say, you're on dick punishment and stuff, or dudes that would say, you only want it because you see it, or I would black out in the middle of sex, she would say, where I would just keep going and going. And then eventually I would just, black out, going to my own world. They might have had sex with me for about 5-6 minutes. And for me, it was like, oh, nothing ever happened. And then just kept going and going and going and going and going. But understanding that I was human, that there was nothing wrong with me, that there was actually a lifestyle of people out there that were into the same things that I was into, that I just didn't know what it was actually called, but I was actually already a part of the culture, which the lifestyle to me is actually a culture. Not a group or organization as people try to make it. It's like, it's a way of living. It's a way of life.
Right. So, so you have this breakthrough with your therapist. You've kind of come to terms with the fact that you're okay, that it's okay for a woman to be sexual. And so now you say that you have started mentoring other women who have maybe gone through similar situations. So what are some things that you've been able to pass along to these women to show that it is okay? Just because we're women doesn't mean that we're not sexual.
Okay, so we've mentored over 40 different females so far.
Wow.
Kind of slowed down a little bit because we started to focus on a little bit of other things, bigger projects, so that we could have bigger conferences and bring a lot more women in. But yeah, we're trying. But I found out that there were a lot of females who grew up in a religious background that understood that, to their knowledge, sex was just meant for the pleasure of a man, not for the pleasure of themselves.
Right.
So through my show on New Orleans Talk Network, which is called The Pleasure Hour, like I said, and also we have Black Coco on Instagram and other outlets and, I guess, venues or ways to, get in contact with me. We've allowed people to ask whatever they need to ask. And I just am very open and honest, or like that guy said at our last conference, sassy with, with my answers. I'm very blunt.
What is the biggest message that you try to instill in them so that they have confidence to be able to explore their sexuality?
I believe in, my whole slogan is freedom, expressing yourself freely through your sexuality. That is really the true slogan. I know a lot of things that you'll see with my name, it says freedom through sexuality, but I believe that your sexuality is a part of your confidence. Because when you go into the bedroom or when you have sex with certain people, it's about opening yourself up. You have to be vulnerable. You have to allow another person to see your naked body, to touch you in certain areas that you may not be as confident about. So sex to me is all about confidence. The fact that you could actually go into a room with another person, allow them to see your flaws, or, some people make ugly faces when they have sex and they don't want to have sex with the lights on, stuff like that in general, for me, means sex and expressing yourself freely through your sexuality. I believe it's all mental, to be honest.
What would be some steps that you could give women to be able to break through some of that, to be able to be naked in front of their partner and not be embarrassed by sounds or noises or faces? Or, do you have like a 5-step program, or
5-step, but the first step that we do tell females to do when it comes to accepting their body is to stand in front of those long mirrors that you get from the Dollar Tree, or some people get it from Ashley Stewart, and you put it on your wall or on your door. one of those long mirrors, stand in front of it completely naked every day for at least a week. And every day you need to look at yourself and find at least one thing that's beautiful about yourself.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is.
That's really.
Eventually you start to look at your flaws and you start to realize, like, for example, I have huge breasts. Thank you, Mom. And all of my sisters, I'm the oldest of 8, so all of my sisters, we hate our breasts. Like, that is, we call it Danita's curse to us. So I decided that one of the things I needed to really like look at was my breasts. So I would stand in front of the mirror and I would say, okay, they don't sag all the way to my knees, you know, like they just sit because they're big, and oh, they are so plump, and my son didn't suck the life out of all of them, you know, like it has a little bit of life. But it took me until the 3rd day, because the first day I still was like, my breasts look horrible. Like I need a breast lift, I need a breast reduction, like where's the doctor immediately, sign me up. I will pay whatever type of money to get rid of these things. And my sister actually, I think, is still going to get rid of hers. I'm okay with mine because I realized that I have a pretty smile, and men most of the time look at my smile before they even get to my breasts. And then I actually put piercings in them, and then I love them from that point on. Like if you go on my Instagram, I have a little side boob with my piercing out.
So this is really pretty incredible. You know, when you talk about your history of, you know, being introduced pretty violently into that sexual arena at 12, and then to move from that into a relationship that was abusive, that you have come out the other side with such a positive affirmation about who you are and what you have to offer. You know, where does that come from? I mean,
I think that actually is probably one of the only things that comes from my religious-based background. I'm just gonna be honest. You know, that strength and having something to lean on. I was told that you have to believe in something or you'll fall for anything. And I was taught that God doesn't put you through anything that you can't bear. And if I wasn't, I lived through that experience. Like my experience was domestic violence strangulation, which means that he tried to basically choke me to death. And I blacked out, and I could have literally died with my son trying to fight for my life. And God let me live because actually it's so crazy. Last month was actually our Survivor Day. July the 14th was our Survivor Day. But
congratulations.
Thank you. But I could have died then. I should have died then. Like he wouldn't let us leave out the house. And if it wasn't for my friend, actually, my phone accidentally called one of my best friends at the time, and she knew how to break into my car, find the spare key, and she came in with a screwdriver and a cane. I still to this day don't understand what she was going to do with a screwdriver and a cane. But if you ever see her, someone can ask her, like, Lachey, what were you going to do with a screwdriver and a cane? She was
going to do something.
And the police came around and basically got us out of there. And we're doing fine. My son is just as fine and as happy as he could ever be. And we're doing fine. So, I mean, like, I could have laid down and died and cried and everything else, but what would that have done? I made a whole business afterwards.
Well, you know, and that brings up an interesting topic with the climate today, with the Me Too movement. Yes. And you know, I think sometimes it can be easy to fall into that victimization when those things happen to us. But it sounds like you took those instances that could have really, well, I mean, they were life-threatening, but you could have also let it suck the life out of you.
Yeah.
But you did the opposite. So, you know, I think there's a message wrapped up in that. Mm-hmm. And for you, what is that message?
I wrote a paper. It's interesting that you asked that, because to get down to New Orleans, because I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, for the viewers to know, and I'm actually located in New Orleans. That's why we keep saying New Orleans Talk Network. And I wrote a paper to get into Dillard University that was called I Am Not a Victim. And it was about my gang rape experience as I was 12. I was watching a show, the Oprah show. And you know how Oprah used to have all those women that would come on and just cry and just, oh, they were so sad about everything. And it bothered me. And
Right.
I was like, I don't want to be considered or called a victim. You can call me a survivor, but victim means that someone has taken something from me, which means they won. And
Absolutely.
I am a fighter. I am a player. Like, I am very competitive when it comes to life in general. You're not going to win when it comes to something that I control, which is my life. So my message to females is, yes, it's hard. You're going to go through things. And there are days that I don't want to be bothered. I have some certain issues with relationships as far as touching, and if a man yells at me too loudly, I have little flashbacks and I'm like, wait, and I'll bottle up, like if a man raises his voice even a few altitudes, I'll just, close up or clam up or almost start to cry. So those things do happen. I still do have side effects from it, but I'm in counseling now still to work and get through that. But I'm not going to just lay down and die. And trust me, my child's father, he tries his best all the time. But I was just in a whole meeting with Instagram and Facebook at Facebook Boost. And I just looked at the message and was like, you still don't win. I win. I chose what I was going to do for my life.
It's really interesting. Jackie and I have spoken to each other many times about self-esteem and the importance of having good self-esteem.
Absolutely.
And it really seems, as you're sharing with us, that because some of those things that have happened to you or that happened, that were part of your life, some people can really make that affect them and how they look upon themselves.
Yes.
As being small. And you just are like, wow, here I am. And you really have great self-esteem. And do you think that has come from, like you mentioned, your religion background, but has the therapy helped you at all with that?
Yes, that therapy helps me a lot with that as well. From the sex therapist to my regular counselor, and explaining how certain things, the best counselor I ever had held me accountable for my actions. Because I'm such a bold person, sometimes, like when it comes to counseling, if I'm not really feeling it, I'm one of those people that can manipulate the counselor, and have them feeling something totally different of how I feel because I don't want to open up.
Right.
Right.
During my domestic violence situation, when the counselor actually told me, she said, so you're allowing him to control your feelings. So you're allowing him to make you feel sad. So you're allowing him to make you get angry. And I got mad at her, like so mad. Like to the point where my grandmother was outside of the room and she was like, stop poking her, she's going to explode. I was so angry. And then afterwards, I left and I came back because she was right. I allowed him to control my feelings and my emotions. So I say find a good counselor when it comes to self-esteem issues. Not every counselor is for everybody. Let's put that out there. So find someone that understands you, who's going to hold you accountable through everything, because you don't want to push over. That's wasting your time and their time. You're not going to do the work. You have to do the work in order to gain, your self-esteem and who you are. And every day, like I said, look at yourself in the mirror and find one thing that you like about yourself.
Okay, so I'm going to ask that weird question because you're in the swinging lifestyle. How often does it come up? Because we're already kind of a target from a societal standpoint, that they'll say, oh, well, of course you're a swinger because of all of these things that happened to you.
That question comes up almost, let's say, how much time do we have?
Right.
Every other encounter, not even every other, like if I'm talking to people that are in the lifestyle, it never comes up. But if I'm talking to people that are just out here, vanilla people, as we would say, normal people,
right,
as they consider themselves, which that makes no sense to me.
I think they're really the abnormal ones, and we're the normal ones.
That makes no sense to me, how we're abnormal. And I feel as though they have just as much sex as we do. They just hide it, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Cheating, like look at the divorce rate and how much it has to do with infidelity. Let's just be for real.
Right.
So yeah, to people who don't understand, yeah, I get that question a lot. Oh, you were gang raped and you had so much trauma, so now something is wrong with you, and that's the reason why you're just sexually promiscuous.
So do you think in general, on a societal basis, sexuality is treated as an abnormality?
It is. It is definitely treated as an abnormality.
'Cause
I was diagnosed with hypersexuality disorder. Exactly.
Well, because I find it interesting that you say in the lifestyle, people aren't asking you that question.
Right. People
know,
who are open freely and understand who they are sexually. That's what I mean when I say in the lifestyle. People who
Interesting.
are open-minded towards, you know, their sexuality. People who are more closed-minded towards their sexuality, it has to be something wrong with me. Automatically. Something has to be wrong with me because sex cannot last longer than 15 to 30 minutes. So there's something wrong with me. I was
Right.
2 pumps in a swirl. That's all you need to get where you need to go. Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
not at all. I just finally got up from that date and said, have a nice day. Not going to work out. Because
And you
I
mentioned,
always got accused of cheating for dating guys like that.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like, you're going to cheat on me. It's like, why? Because you're just horny 24/7, as people would say. I'm just extremely over sexual, so you're going to cheat on me. But I'm sorry, John, you were trying to ask me something.
no. And men in the lifestyle, they like that. You know, that's the thing.
Men in the
Vanilla
lifestyle.
men are afraid of it.
Exactly.
Men in the lifestyle love women that are horny all the time.
Right.
You mentioned, you know, being diagnosed with hypersexuality disorder. Probably that's only a characteristic of women, because I can't imagine a man being diagnosed with that. You know, it's just he's normal, but if a woman has the same kind of libido as a man, then she has hypersexuality disorder. Isn't that, I mean, it's probably not true. It probably could be across the board, but
more women get diagnosed with hypersexuality disorder than men do, actually. Men actually fall into the category, they like to call you guys sex addicts.
yeah. There we
Yep.
go.
Exactly.
Yep.
So for me, it was like, okay, it's a disorder. For a man, or my ex-boyfriend, for example, that introduced me into it, he was a sex addict. He's a womanizer. He just wants it all the time. Like, there's a negative connotation that's attached to him as well as me. It's just mine sticks a lot more than his does. It's more accepted in the world for a man to be considered a womanizer or a sex addict. It's just like, oh, he just needs to calm down and get himself together. Not understanding that there's nothing really wrong with him. You're just not the right person for him.
Right.
Well, it's interesting in this conversation when we start talking about disorders and addicts and you know, how often do we hear, wow, they like to have a lot of sex. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that great? Isn't that normal? Isn't that, you know, again, it's going back to that negative connotation with anything that has to do with our sexuality. So I think it's really amazing that you're taking these steps, not only with yourself, but with the next generation, you know, with these other women or the women within your generation or maybe multi-generational women that you're able to reach out to and have these conversations to tell them, no, you're just normal. I mean, this is just...
You're normal. There's nothing wrong with you.
Sometimes it's having permission.
Do you have any stories of anyone that you've talked to about it, you know, that you've shared your experience with, and you've seen that person come through it and have an attitude change?
Yes, I actually just met a couple. I went to, well, for those people who watch my Instagram story, I kind of expose everything I do in life. If I had somebody to record this situation, I probably would be on Instagram right now. But I met a young lady who was out in Mississippi with me and my cousin, and she just got out of I think she said a 2-year domestic violence situation, but she was fresh out. She had only been out for about 4 months.
Oh, wow.
and she's dating this guy who's in the lifestyle, and he was trying to get her to, understand. Like, I guess he was at that point of being like, hey, I really like you, but this is what I'm into. That
Right.
conversation that we have to have very often.
Yeah.
So it just so happened he was in the pool, and, they were talking about it, and he threw out the beautiful Club Colette's, which is crazy, but you got to understand, in New Orleans, that's pretty much the only one. So, so he threw out the fact that, hey, you should come to Colette's with us one day. And she just looked and rolled her eyes and everything. And I said, funny that you said that. I was just on the panel with the owners of Colette's. He did not believe me until he pulled up Naughty in New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I got to that opened up a conversation in which I talked to her about her domestic violence situation and her fears and how she felt about, her sexuality and how she was forced to have sex a lot. Like she would just black out. He would just hold her down and she would black out and she would just, have sex with him. And she was like, well, I don't feel like I need to be touched or I want to be touched anymore. I'll play with toys all day long, but I don't want to be touched anymore. And I was like, well, first off, there's nothing wrong with you. You went through a traumatic experience. I tell people all the time, like, if you cut me, I will bleed. You do not determine how I heal.
Right.
That's just being honest. When you have an open cut, you don't determine how it heals or how fast it heals or how slow it heals. You have to allow it time to heal. But that doesn't mean that it's anything wrong with you. That's just nature and how things work. So I was able to talk to her, relax her a little bit about this guy that apparently she said was amazing and has been like the best guy she's ever met, and introducing her into the lifestyle, explaining to her that she may not just be ready just yet to enter into it because she has some self-esteem issues. And self-esteem is a big thing when it comes to being in the lifestyle because it will cause a whole bunch of insecurity issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we really, really thank you for being with us here today. I think what you've shared with our viewers is really going to be helpful and it's definitely insightful.
I
And
hope it was.
I think for sure it will. Absolutely.
Well, and I definitely want you to make sure that the audience knows, again, how to get in touch with you and, about your companies and how they can listen to you on your radio show. So just, I'll let you do your whole spiel of
It's a long one, isn't it? I gain a new company, I feel like every 5 seconds. I was blessed. And it's actually because of like Naughty in New Orleans, you guys. I'm so thankful for you guys. Like, I wanted to know, I'll ask you guys later if I could post a picture of you guys and fan out. But I love you and Jackie.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure John told you when I answered the phone, I was like, hello. And then he was like, it's John. I was like, hey, it's Jackie. But my show is called The Pleasure Hour, and it is shot right here in New Orleans on New Orleans Talk Network. You can go to neworleanstalknetwork.com, or you can go on Facebook to New Orleans Talk Network. Just hit that like and subscribe button. Even on YouTube, New Orleans Talk Network. And every Thursday at 9. I'm also on a show called The Live Line where I do a sex segment. It's called Coco Sex Tips. It's a hip-hop urban show for those of you guys who like local rap artists, where we interview local rap artists and we talk about topics that, relate to whatever is going on in the hip-hop culture and community as well. And then I have Black Coco. We actually have our 30 over 30 sale, so it's 30% off, right now, on our website where we sell all pH balance safe adult novelties. I'm super sensitive as a female, so I wanted to have something out there where it was certain products through, reputable companies that were pH balance safe. So we have everything from Sliquid, which is made by women for women. Their lubrications, we sell those. We have some of your more finer toys like from We Vibe and stuff like that. So we have our 30 over 30 sale right now.
Good to know.
On blackcoco.com. And we also have my book that's coming out really, really soon. I'm just working out a couple of the kinks, but it will be available on blackcoco.com as well. Like I said, if you want to see my shows, make sure you tune into New Orleans Talk Network and you will see Coco everywhere.
Oh, that's so great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Once again, thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you guys soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.